Life has a very strange way of teaching us its most important lessons. You're sitting in Manhattan, holding a $7 latte, looking successful to everyone passing by. But inside, you're spiraling, clutching your phone, watching news of a recession, exhausted from trying to control a future that feels like it's slipping through your fingers. The harder you grasp for security, the more it seems to vanish. What if the only way to reclaim your power is to stop fighting the storm? Stay with me, because the worst thing isn't losing everything, it's living your whole life terrified that you might. We spend our lives building walls. We call it security. We think that if we just reach a certain tax bracket or finally move into that house in the suburbs, we'll be safe. But there is a profound irony in the way we live today, especially here in the United States. We are part of the wealthiest generation in human history, yet we are arguably the most anxious. We have more tools for comfort than any king in the Middle Ages, but we're more stressed than the person who has nothing. Why? Because comfort is a double-edged sword. The truth is, when you have nothing to lose. You are light, you are mobile. But as you accumulate the career, the luxury car, the high-end subscriptions, the reputation, you start to build an invisible cage around yourself. I call it the prisoner in a golden castle. The walls are beautiful, the furniture is expensive, and the food is exquisite. But you are still a prisoner, because now your peace of mind is held hostage by the fear that someone or something might take it all away. Your happiness is no longer a state of being. It's a fragile construction that requires constant maintenance. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. It's a relentless, exhausting cycle. You work incredibly hard to achieve a new level of comfort, and for a short time, it feels amazing. But then, your brain does what it's wired to do. It adapts. That luxury becomes your new normal. So, you need more. You need the next upgrade, the next promotion, the next milestone to feel that same spark of joy. But with every upgrade, the stakes get higher. The floor of what you consider an acceptable life rises, and the distance you could fall becomes terrifying. You aren't just living anymore, you're managing a risk. You see this everywhere in our culture. You see people making mid-six figures who are paralyzed by the thought of a missed paycheck. You see people who have everything they ever wanted but can't sleep because they're obsessed with maintaining the image of having it all. They are grasping so tightly to their lifestyle that their knuckles are white. They are kitsuk, not necessarily from the work itself, but from the constant, low-level vibration of fear. The fear of, what if? What if the market crashes? What if I get laid off? What if I can't afford this version of myself anymore? We've been told since we were children that wealth equals freedom. But look closely at the world around you. Is the person with 3 phones and a mountain of obligations really free? Or are they a servant to the very things they worked so hard to acquire? This is the great paradox of the modern world. The more we possess, the more we are possessed. We think we are building a life, but often we are just building a more elaborate set of chains. We've traded our inner resilience for external padding. We've become so addicted to the soft beds, the climate control, and the instant gratification that we've forgotten how to be strong in the cold. Take a look around your room right now. Look at your bank account, your closet, the gadgets on your desk. Ask yourself this honestly. Do you own your things, or do your things own you? If the thought of losing any of it makes your heart race, then you aren't the master of your life. You're the guard. And being a guard is a weary, soul-crushing job. Trust me, the real power doesn't come from how much you can gather. It comes from how little you actually need to be okay. So, how do we break out of this golden castle? How do we stop being afraid? To find that answer, we have to look back at someone who had more to lose than almost anyone in history. Imagine a man who has everything: power, influence, and more wealth than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. This wasn't a monk living in a cave or a hermit on a mountaintop. This was Lucius Annaeus Seneca, one of the richest men in the Roman Empire and the top advisor to the Emperor Nero. He lived in a world of marble palaces, fine wines, and absolute authority. But Seneca had a secret. Every few days, he would strip away the silk robes, leave the feast behind, and purposefully step into a life of total poverty. He would sleep on a hard floor. He would wear coarse, cheap clothing. He would eat nothing but a handful of dry bread and drink only plain water. To an outsider, it looked like madness. Why would the most powerful man in Rome pretend to be a beggar? But Seneca wasn't doing this to be holy or spiritual. He was doing it for a much more practical reason. He was conducting a military exercise for his soul. You see, Seneca understood something that most of us are too afraid to admit. Fear is the anticipation of loss. We aren't afraid of the thing itself. We are afraid of how we will feel when the thing is gone. We are terrified of the what if. What if the bank account hits zero? What if the reputation is ruined? What if the comfort vanishes? Seneca realized that as long as he was afraid of losing his wealth actually owned him. He was a slave to his own success. So, he decided to look the monster in the eye. By living in poverty for a few days every month, he was proving to himself that his worst-case scenario wasn't actually that bad. He would ask himself, "Is this the condition that I feared?" And the answer was always no. He found that even with nothing but bread and a hard floor, he was still himself. He was still at peace. He was still okay. This is the core of Stoicism. It's not about being cold or emotionless. It's about building an inner fortress that no external storm can reach. The Stoics looked at life like a game of chess. You play the best you can with the pieces you have, but you don't let your soul depend on whether you win or lose. They taught us that the real battle isn't with the economy, your boss, or the market. The real battle is always within. Trust me, the power Seneca found didn't come from his gold. It came from his willingness to walk away from it. He understood that if you can be content with almost nothing, you are truly invincible. You can't be threatened. You can't be bribed. You can't be broken, because you've already been to the bottom, and you realized you could survive there. In modern America, we are trained to believe that we need more to be secure. More insurance, more savings, more stuff. But Seneca would tell you the opposite. True security comes from knowing how little you actually need. It's about reclaiming your mind from the spiral of anxiety that tells you you're one disaster away from ruin. So, how do we take this ancient Roman wisdom and apply it to a world of credit cards and high-speed internet? How do we perform our own military exercise without actually becoming homeless? It starts with a simple, deliberate shift in how we live our daily lives. Now, let's talk about how to put this into practice. We're going to look at 3 specific exercises in poverty that you can start today to destroy your fear of loss forever. Let's dive into the first one. So, how do we take these ancient ideas and turn them into a modern reality? It starts with an exercise Seneca called practicing poverty. But in our world of high-speed convenience, let's call it the fasting of comfort. Most of us in America live in a state of constant insulation. We have climate control to ensure we're never too hot or too cold. We have DoorDash and Uber Eats to ensure that a craving is never more than 20 minutes away from being satisfied. We've built a life where discomfort is seen as a malfunction. But this insulation has a cost. It makes us fragile. When you are used to the finest things, the mere thought of losing them feels like a death sentence. The exercise is simple, but trust me, it is far from easy. For the next 3 days, I want you to deliberately step out of your golden castle. You aren't going to pretend to be poor. You are going to live it. Look at your current lifestyle. You probably spend $50 on a single dinner without thinking twice. For these 3 days, that ends. You are going to go to the grocery store and buy the cheapest, most basic food available. I'm talking about a bag of plain white rice, generic oats, or the most inexpensive cereal you can find. No seasoning, no gourmet toppings, no side dishes, just the bare minimum required for sustenance. Think about the contrast. One day, you're at a high-end bistro in downtown Chicago, and the next, you're sitting at your kitchen table eating a bowl of plain rice that cost you less than 50 cents. In that moment, your brain will scream at you. It will tell you that this is unacceptable, that you deserve better, that you are failing. But look closer. Are you actually suffering? Are you in physical danger? No. You are simply experiencing a sensation. Now, let's talk about where you sleep. Most of us invest thousands of dollars into memory foam mattresses and high thread count sheets. For these 3 days, you're going to leave that behind. Take a single blanket and sleep on the hardwood floor or a thin rug. Your back might ache. You might toss and turn. You might wake up feeling stiff and frustrated. But this is exactly where the training happens. In the middle of the night, when the floor feels hard and the room feels a little too cold, ask yourself Seneca's question: is this the condition I so greatly feared? The truth is, we spend our entire lives running away from a ghost. We work 80 hours a week and sacrifice our mental health just to ensure we never have to eat plain rice or sleep on a hard floor. We treat these things as if they are the ultimate tragedy, but when you actually do them, when you choose to inhabit that space, the ghost disappears. You realize that your worst-case scenario is actually quite manageable. You realize that your happiness doesn't require a Tempur-Pedic mattress or a Michelin star meal. This is about reclaiming your freedom. When you realize that you can survive and even be at peace while living on $2 a day, the world loses its power over you. Your boss can't threaten you with a layoff. The stock market can't threaten you with a crash, because you've already been to the bottom and you found out it wasn't that deep. You've tested the limits of your survival and found them to be solid. A hungry stomach doesn't kill you. The fear of hunger is what kills you. The physical sensation of hunger is just a signal, but the mental spiral of, what if I can't provide, is a prison. By fasting from comfort, you break the bars of that prison. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the master of your own soul. You're not just saving money. You're building an internal fortress that no recession can touch. Now, let's move to the next layer of this training: how to handle the world's judgment. Now that we've addressed the physical, let's talk about something even more paralyzing: the social cage. For many of us, the fear of losing our money isn't really about the hunger or the cold. It's about the shame. It's about the look in your neighbor's eyes when they see you driving an old car. It's about the judgment of strangers when they see you can no longer afford the lifestyle you once projected. We spend thousands of dollars on costumes, designer bags, luxury watches, the latest tech, just to send a signal to the world that we are safe and successful. But if your confidence is tied to the label on your sleeve, then you aren't really confident. You're just wearing a disguise. Seneca and the Stoics knew that reputation is what they called a preferred indifferent. It's nice to have, but it should never be the foundation of your peace. To master this, you need a different kind of military exercise. I call it the wardrobe of humility. Here is your challenge. I want you to pick out the oldest, most worn out, or most unflattering clothes you own. Maybe it's a faded t-shirt with a hole in it or a pair of shoes that have seen better days. Now, I want you to go to the most affluent, expensive part of your city. If you're in New York, go to Fifth Avenue. If you're in LA, go to Rodeo Drive. Walk into a high-end boutique, the kind where the sales associates wear suits and speak in hushed tones. Walk in there with your rags. Notice what happens inside you. You will feel a sudden, intense heat. Your heart rate might spike. You'll feel like every eye in the room is a laser beam focused on your flaws. This is what psychologists call the spotlight effect. It's the ego's illusion that everyone is as obsessed with your appearance as you are. You feel like you're shrinking. You feel like you don't belong because you aren't playing the game of status. But look around. Really look. The truth is, most people aren't even noticing you. They are caught in their own spirals, worrying about their own credit scores, their own deadlines, and how they look to others. You are a ghost in their world. And for the few who do judge, their opinion is a shadow. It has no substance. It cannot touch the core of who you are unless you give it permission. When you realize that the world doesn't end just because someone thinks you're unsuccessful, you become dangerous. You become untouchable. You stop being a performer and start being a person. You reclaim the energy you used to waste on clinging to an image. Trust me, the real power lies in your ability to be ignored. It's the freedom to move through the world without needing to impress anyone. So, how do we practice this in real life? Don't wait for a crisis to find out who you are. Practice being unimpressive on purpose. Go to a gathering and don't mention your achievements. Wear an outfit that doesn't scream success. Real confidence is the ability to stand in a room of people who think you are nothing and know, with absolute certainty, that you are everything you need to be. It's about the strength under the skin, not the brand on the fabric. Because at the end of the day, you can lose the wardrobe, you can lose the house, and you can lose the status, but you can never lose your character unless you throw it away yourself. That is the strength of the soul. Now, let's take this even deeper. Let's talk about the ultimate test of control, your relationship with time and money in the digital age. Think of a grandmaster sitting at a chess table. To the amateur, every piece lost feels like a disaster, a step closer to ruin. But the master understands something deeper. They are willing to sacrifice the pawns, the knights, and even the queen, if it means protecting the king and controlling the center of the board. In the game of your life, the king is your mind, your inner peace, and your character. Everything else, the subscriptions, the digital conveniences, the frictionless spending, are just pawns. And right now, most of us are losing the game because we are too afraid to let a single pawn go. We live in an era of invisible spending. Our lives are designed to be a series of effortless, automatic transactions. From the monthly Netflix bill to the one-click buy on Amazon, we have decoupled the act of consuming from the reality of our resources. This creates a mental fog. We feel like we are in control, but in reality, we are being slowly bled dry by 1,000 tiny attachments. This is why the third military exercise for your soul is what I call the digital and financial blackout. For the next 7 days, you are going to clear the board. You are going to go through a week of zero non-essential spending. No digital orders, no morning lattes, no treating yourself after a long day. If it's not required for your basic survival or your commute to work, it doesn't happen. Now, I know what you're thinking. I live in San Francisco, or I'm in the middle of Chicago. Everything costs money just to exist. And that is exactly why you need this. The more expensive and high-pressure your environment is, the more important it is to prove that your peace of mind is not for sale. During this blackout, you will feel a strange, itchy sensation. It's the phantom limb of consumerism. You'll find yourself reaching for your phone to order something the moment you feel a hint of boredom or stress. You'll feel a pang of exclusion when your colleagues go out for lunch and you stay back with your simple, home-cooked meal. But stay in that discomfort. Watch the impulse rise, spiral, and then, if you don't feed it, watch it fade away. This is where you reclaim your focus. When you stop the constant outflow of capital and attention, something incredible happens. The noise of the world begins to quiet down. You realize how much of your daily anxiety was actually just the friction of trying to maintain a lifestyle that you don't even enjoy. You start to see the king again. You realize that your ability to think, to create, and to be happy is entirely independent of the latest tech upgrade or a premium delivery service. You are sacrificing the pawns to regain the center of the board. The truth is, true freedom isn't the ability to buy whatever you want whenever you want it. That's just a more expensive form of slavery. Real freedom is the realization that you want for nothing. It's the effortless flow that comes when you stop grasping at external solutions for internal problems. By the end of this week, you won't just have more money in your bank account, you'll have more of yourself. You will move through the city with a sense of calm and certainty that no one can take away from you. But this is just the beginning. We've stripped away the comfort, we've faced the judgment, and we've silenced the digital noise. Now, we need to understand the why behind it all. Why does this poverty training actually make you richer than any billionaire? If you stay with me until the final part of this journey, I'm going to show you the ultimate result of these exercises, a state of mind so powerful that you will never feel the weight of financial fear again. Let's talk about the real power of the reframing and how it turns you into someone who is truly impossible to defeat. Why does pretending to be poor actually make you truly wealthy? It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? In a world that tells you security is found in the accumulation of assets, the idea of voluntarily living without them seems almost reckless. But the truth is, the most dangerous person in any room isn't the one with the most money, it's the one who is least afraid of losing it. This is the mechanism of absolute confidence. This is the flip. Most people spend their lives building a psychological house of cards. They tell themselves, I am successful because of this car, this title, or this balance in my 401k. But because their identity is built on external things, they live in a state of constant, low-level panic. They are always one market crash or one corporate restructuring away from an identity crisis. Their confidence is fragile because it is borrowed from the world. When you practice the exercises we've discussed, you are doing something profound. You are developing psychological immunity. Think of it like a soldier in training. A soldier doesn't wait for the chaos of the front lines to learn how to handle their weapon or manage their fear. They drill in the mud, in the rain, and in the dark, while the rest of the world is at peace. They push their bodies to the breaking point when there is no real danger, so that when the real battle begins, their mind doesn't spiral into chaos. They don't bleed in war because they sweated in peace. By voluntarily choosing to inhabit your worst-case scenario, you strip that scenario of its power. Fear thrives on the unknown. It lives in the shadows of what if. What if I lose my house? What if I can't afford my lifestyle? But once you have actually slept on that hard floor and eaten that plain bread, the shadow disappears. You realize that your worst-case scenario isn't a death sentence, it's just a different set of circumstances. You find that your soul is still intact, your mind is still sharp, and your capacity for joy is still there. This is where your inner fortress is built. Trust me, the real power lies in this realization. When you are no longer a slave to your comfort, you become impervious to the threats of the world. Imagine the stock market takes a dive. While everyone else is grasping at their disappearing portfolios, paralyzed by the fear of what they might have to give up. You are calm. Why? Because you know exactly how to be happy with nothing. You've been there. You've tested the floor, and it held you. Your confidence becomes a sovereignty. It stops being a reaction to how much you have and starts being a reflection of who you are. The real wealth isn't the gold in Seneca's vaults. It was the fact that he didn't need it to be Seneca. This is the ultimate reframing of success. True wealth is the absence of the need for wealth to feel secure. It is the ability to move through life with an effortless flow, knowing that whether you are dining in a palace or eating rice in a cramped apartment, you are the master of your own peace. You become a person who cannot be bought and cannot be broken. A layoff isn't a tragedy, it's just a change in the game. A financial setback isn't a spiral, it's just a new challenge to master. You have reclaimed your life from the hands of fate. Now, as we reach the end of this journey, it's time to bring all of this together. It's time to talk about the final shift, the one that ensures this isn't just a temporary exercise, but a permanent way of being. Because life, as we've seen, isn't about controlling the results, it's about mastering yourself. We have traveled a long way together today. We started in the heart of our modern anxieties, the noise of the city, the pressure of the paycheck, and the invisible chains of a lifestyle we are terrified to lose. We looked back 2,000 years to a man who had everything and realized that his greatest asset wasn't his gold, but his willingness to walk away from it. We've explored how to fast from comfort, how to wear the wardrobe of humility, and how to silence the digital noise that drains our power. But now, as we reach the end of this journey, we have to address the most important question. What does all of this actually change? The truth is, these exercises aren't meant to make your life harder. They are meant to make you impossible to defeat. When you choose to inhabit your worst-case scenario, you aren't just practicing poverty. You are performing a grand act of reclamation. You are reclaiming your identity from the hands of the market, your boss, and your social circle. You are telling the world that your peace is not a commodity that can be traded or taken away. Think about the mental shift that has happened here. Most people spend their entire lives running away from a shadow. They are constantly exhausted, constantly grasping, because they believe that their survival depends on maintaining a certain level of external luxury. But you have looked that shadow in the eye. You have eaten the plain bread and found it sufficient. You have slept on the hard floor and found your rest. You have walked through the streets in rags and realized that the sky didn't fall. When you go back to your normal life tomorrow, when you take that first sip of your favorite coffee or lie down on your soft mattress, you will see them for what they truly are. They are gifts to be enjoyed, but they are no longer anchors that hold you down. You will move through life with a sense of effortless flow because the spiral of anxiety has lost its grip on you. You are like a soldier who has finished their training in the mud and the cold. When the real storm comes, and in this life, the storm always comes, you will be the one standing calm in the center of it. The real power lies in this. Life is no longer about controlling the results. It is about mastering yourself. You have built an internal fortress that no recession, no layoff, and no judgment can ever breach. You are finally free. Before we finish, I want to ask a small favor. If this perspective shift has brought you even a moment of peace or clarity, please hit the subscribe button. It's a simple gesture of gratitude that helps us bring these ancient truths to more people who are currently lost in the noise. But there is one final piece to this puzzle. To truly complete this Stoic transformation, you need to move beyond just surviving your fate. You need to learn how to love it. I've put together a video on the concept of amor fati, the love of fate, which is the final step in becoming truly invincible. I highly suggest you watch it next to complete the cycle. Today, As you step back into the world, take a moment to look around at everything you were so afraid to lose. Look at your bank account, your closet, and your expectations. Stop, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, is this the condition that I so greatly feared? And you will see, it is nothing at all.